Let's see. Okay, so I see some people are already watching here. And so what I'm going to do is get started. So first of all, we'll do some housekeeping. So before we jump in and start talking about topics, I just want to share a little update from our website. So for those of you who have visited the website before, you may have visited our YouTube page. So the team has been working on a revamp of this YouTube page. So it's the wixwiz.com/YouTube. And it's now the YouTube Community Center. And really the idea was to give more voice to people who comment on videos on YouTube. So essentially what we tried to do is build a database that uses data fetched, via the YouTube APIs from the actual comments of the YouTube videos, does some AI processing, and like categorizes it and breaks it down into smaller questions and stuff like that. So you can see here, like for example, this is like an AI interpretation of a comment or part of a comment that was given, who gave the comment. You can see here which video it is, the original comment, and then like kind of a categorization here. And you could more easily search this database for information that you might want. Like let's say you're looking for something that has to do with galleries. Let's hope this will work. There we go. So you search gallery, and then you can see different things about galleries. You could also kind of filter by, categories and stuff like that. And you can dive into specific items as well. Each one has its own page, and you can really see like the whole conversation surrounding that question or suggestion. So the idea is to help people gain access to the shared knowledge surrounding all of the videos, that's beyond just what's in the videos themselves. And also to give you a voice as to like what your priorities are as a viewer. So for example, this one is specifically a question, but if we go and find something that's, let's say, a video suggestion, so we could look here for video suggestions, and then if you go to view replies, and you want to, let's say, give this one a thumbs up, so it'll take you directly to that specific YouTube video, and then you can see here the highlighted comment is the comment that you came from on the website. And then if you wanted to support this as a video suggestion, you can give it a thumbs up. And I'm personally going to try and keep an eye on those kind of things to get more of a read on to what your priorities are in terms of viewing things on the channel and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's really just, it's very beta. I mean, we just finished working on it, so there might be it generally is working, but, there might still be some kinks in it. And feel free to share, what your thoughts are on this, but hopefully it'll serve its purpose. So you're welcome to check that out. That's again at thewixwiz.com/YouTube. So that'll be all for housekeeping for today. I'm not going to talk too much about other things. So for those of you who are new to the live stream, the way it works is we have a topic, and we're going to talk about that, but it's open Q&A. So you're welcome to share any questions that you have in the chat. Our topic for today is the JavaScript SDK. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that. And I'm going to prioritize questions that are about the JavaScript SDK. For those of you who don't know what the JavaScript SDK is, I'll give a little intro. But feel free to ask questions really about anything. I'll check and see if my camera started working again, because I feel disconnected from myself without my face showing, so I can't imagine how you feel. Let me see if I can turn that back on. Nope, you could just you'll just see my contemplative. Is there some way for me to like refresh this? I don't know. Is anybody here like an OBS expert? Let's see. What if I like deactivate and then activate again? Oh, that worked. Okay, I'm back. Okay, awesome. let's hope this doesn't stop again. So yeah, so back on track. You are welcome to ask questions about anything that you want in the chat, about Wix, Velo, and I'll be answering those as well. In terms of the order, so I'll generally answer first come, first serve, and then I'll also be giving priority to members. So I'll be answering member questions first. And I'm noticing here that we still have lorem ipsum here in the description as I speak. So that's yeah, some of the things that we need to fix up. But I will give priority to members and also priority to first question. So if somebody asks a question, I will address that first question first, and then other people's first questions, and then circle back. So let's start talking about the JavaScript SDK. And for those of you who are not familiar, there was let me just open here. I made some notes. Just one second. I took some notes. I made some AI notes from the webinar that was earlier this week, which unfortunately I slept through because it was at 11 p.m. my time and I was very tired. But I did watch the recording, and I kind of organized some notes based on that. It was talking about Velo in general, but really I wanted to focus on the parts that are related to the JavaScript SDK. So let me just open that up quickly. Let me find my notes here. JavaScript. Is it this? No, not that. I'm just looking at some stuff here on my other screen. Did I put it? Just one moment. Just one moment. In the meantime, you can start putting your questions in the chat, and then I will get some insight into what you specifically want to hear about with regard to the JavaScript SDK. There we go. Okay, I put it here. I thought I had done it in a different account, but it's over here. So okay, let's start with a. We already have a first question here, so that's great. So I'm going to address those questions in just a moment. What is the JavaScript SDK? Let me open that up here. JavaScript SDK Wix. Whoops. Okay, so this is the JavaScript SDK. Fancy schmancy. And the JavaScript SDK is it's an SDK that was originally created for use within Wix apps, so apps that are developed for Wix websites and Wix headless. And it's a set of APIs. It's essentially I want to say a wrapper for the REST APIs. It's based in JavaScript, so if you for some reason are building outside of Wix and you're not using JavaScript, you wouldn't be able to use it. You would need to use the REST APIs. But it's a safe assumption usually that you'll be using JavaScript, and that's what this SDK was built for. And essentially, Wix was managing both this JavaScript SDK and our Velo APIs, which I'm assuming that most people watching this are familiar with. If not, you can feel free to ask in the chat. And eventually, here I'm adding a little interpretation. Wix got tired of maintaining two very similar things. And they decided to give priority to this JavaScript SDK for a few reasons that we'll try and understand, and decided to say goodbye to Velo in the sense that they won't be updating Velo anymore, and they will only be updating this SDK, which can now also be used on Wix sites. So I'm pretty sure that it could be used on Wix sites before as well, but they kind of announced the fact that this could be done. And now they're pushing it, kind of. They're slow. I mean, they're not forcing. They're kind of like not even nudging yet, like pre-nudging. They're showing the way into the JavaScript SDK and trying very hard to convince us that it's not a very big change. So if we take a look here at the APIs here, we can see that we have a lot of these same modules and endpoints that we might have. We have ecom, and it's separated here. It's a little different, separated a little differently than the Velo API. So we have front-end modules, but theoretically, there shouldn't be a huge difference between using these APIs and the Velo APIs. I'll leave it at that for now, and let's just take a look at some of the things that were mentioned inside of the webinar, and then I'll add a few thoughts as well, or maybe as we're reading this. So one thing that was given in the webinar was, I'll send the link to the webinar here in this is the webinar that I'm talking about, by the way, and I'll send the link here inside of the chat. And so basically one thing that we got here is a little more reasoning for the transition. And yeah, Max, I see Max said, I knew that article was new. I was gaslighting myself into thinking I just hadn't noticed it before. That's generally how I feel about a lot of updates that happen to the Wix documentation. It just kind of happens. And then you're in the documentation one day and it looks completely different. And you're like, did I just not notice this, or is this new? Yeah, that's definitely something I have asked them before to just kind of add some kind of clarification in documentation as to when something is new versus has always existed. But actually, this SDK might also kind of be linked to that. So yeah, so one thing that they gave in the webinar was a little more reasoning behind the transition to the SDK, which wasn't included in the original announcement. So they mentioned aligning with standard development practices. So the use of third-party packages is something that people do every day, NPM, stuff like that. And basically, if you're a developer from the outside world, then theoretically that's what you'd be used to. I don't think that somebody who was used to using npm packages would have found it very difficult to use Velo, because it's pretty similar, just that all the packages are pre-installed. So I think this reasoning is nice, but it kind of still has, it's still begging for a little more explanation. Enables faster delivery of new features by focusing on a single method. I think, in my interpretation, this is the number one reason. And I mean, you can interpret it in two ways. You can see it as a selfish thing, but on the other hand, it's like a selfish thing for us. So basically, instead of needing to maintain both an SDK and Velo, now the Wix team can just focus on the SDK, which will lower their general workload and then hopefully clear them up to work on, progressing faster in one direction than, progressing slower in two directions. So that's, or at least in two parallel paths. So in my interpretation, this is the number one primary method for this this change. Aims to unify Wix development, making it consistent across different Wix products. This basically, if you were developing headless or apps, then you were developing using the SDK. And if you were developing on websites, then you were using Velo. So those were very different skill set, not very different, but they were different skill sets. And Wix wants to try and unify that so that, I think they talk about it a little bit later on as well. If you're a developer for Wix, then you're capable of developing for websites, but also for headless and for Wix apps in a more seamless way. I generally am for that. I'm not against that, but I do think that there was also a conscious decision here to prioritize apps and headless over websites because the website APIs were deprecated and everybody had to move to the apps and headless. Again, it wouldn't have made sense to do it the other way. So I'm not trying to say that that should have been done, but I just think that at least currently the way the SDKs are built, it's very confusing for somebody who's coming. If you only built on Wix websites and you may not even have a lot of experience building off of Wix websites, you may even be just like a site owner who's trying to add a little Velo. I feel like you're going to have a lot harder time navigating the SDK documentation just because there's a lot of unrelated things there, at least at this point in time. I'm hoping that maybe they'll create like I don't want to use the word dumbed down, but like a simplified version of the SDK documentation that's meant only for people who are developing on websites and don't really need to, get involved with everything else. And that will already be a huge step in the right direction, in my opinion. But basically, generally, the aim to unify, sure, but the way it was done kind of hurts the most important and the weakest link. So the people who are the least, probably like the least experienced with development and the primary use case for development on Wix, which is Wix websites, got hit in order to do this unification. But again, the intent is good. Improves development experience with features like direct package installation and autocomplete. This is like where's the chicken and where's the egg, because you didn't need direct package installation unless you move to the SDK. You only need that. And I'll explain what that is in a moment. In terms of the direct, no, let's do it right now. So this is a feature that Wix introduced, I think a few days or the next day. I don't know. Like it didn't exist when they made the first announcement, but very promptly after they released it, which is why I always like to wait a little bit with Wix. But let's say if we go to, I don't know, just some random site. Let's go over here. And you'll see that when you try to import something from the SDK, then it'll prompt you to install that package from within the IDE. And you won't need to first go to the npm package manager and install. So it definitely simplifies things a lot. It makes it a lot more seamless and similar to the previous Velo experience. So let's just go over here. Oh, good. Dev mode's already on. So if we just grab one of the SDKs, so let's say, well, these are backend modules. Let's go to something from the front end. Let's say Wix members, authentication, login, whatever. So then we just grab this import right over here. And if we put that over here, then you can see when I hover, so you'll see here, it kind of prompts me to install the package, install it now. And then if I click that, then it will install the package. So this is very different than what you'd have in Velo, because this would automatically be installed. But on the other hand, it doesn't require me to do what I would otherwise need to do, which is go here into packages and apps and then install from npm like that. So it's a little more smooth. It does take a moment to install, but yeah, we can revisit that after it's installed. But that's this thing over here. But basically, they're saying that's why they moved to the SDK, where that's something you wouldn't even need unless you move to the SDK. Anyway, increases code stability by using pinned versions of npm packages. So this generally is also good. Basically, it allows you to choose which version of the SDK you want to be on. And unlike Velo, where you'd automatically be pushed to the most updated version, and that might break your code theoretically, then here you can choose when you want to update, or you could decide to always stay in the most updated version. So you can, let's see if my package has been installed yet. No, it's taking its time. Taking its time to install. Yeah, live demos, It usually does not take this long. I'll just clarify. This is a little longer than it usually takes. Probably because my internet is like at max right now with like the live streaming and everything. Yeah. So another few things that they talked about, and then I'm going to start taking a look here at the comments. I know you've been waiting a while. So deprecation is not the end. Velo modules will continue to work, and there's no immediate need to migrate. SDK is recommended for new projects. That's what Wix says. My personal recommendation is still to wait a little bit. But I will talk about some cool updates that have been made only to the SDK, which would warrant using the SDK. So there are some cool, sparkly things there that came out over the past few weeks. Developer experience updates that we talked about already. And tips and tricks. So one thing that they mentioned in the webinar was that you can use the AI assistants that exist in the documentation. So that's this right over here, SDK assistant. And there's one also in the Velo documentation, and you can use this to understand how to make transitions from the Velo APIs to the SDK. So for example, if I ask it, how do I change my data query from Velo to SDK? Theoretically, that should give me instructions for how to migrate based on what they said in the webinar. And they did do a demo. Yeah, so here, like you can just see, how to update your code and whatnot. I'm not going to go ahead and verify that this is actually true, but that's something that they pointed out. So you can utilize that for your transitions. And then they had a short kind of Q&A session going on there in the end of the webinar. So what's going to happen with $W? That's part of the things that are still inside of Velo. So there are some things that didn't manage to make the leap quite yet. And $W is one of them. And I think also based on the just understanding $W a little bit and the vibe that was going on during this webinar, that's going to be the hardest and last thing that will move to the SDK, but they hope to move it eventually. Tree staking support. This was interesting to me because I think Velo did have tree shaking to some extent, and like you can see it. Like technically, this is tree shaking to my understanding. Like you can import authentication over here instead of importing like the whole Wix members package. So I'm not so sure what that question was and why they said it's coming and not that it exists. Feel free to comment on that if you have any idea. Front-end functions return promises. So this is interesting. This I didn't notice actually inside of the SDK. I don't know why this is still installed. Oh, it didn't install. Okay, I don't know. Let me try again. Yeah, so if we go to the SDK docs and we take a look here, for example, at login. So login, it's interesting because it doesn't say here that it's 08. Oh, login returns a promise. I think that would have returned a promise anyways. Let me try and think of something that wouldn't have usually returned a promise. Let's say Wix storage. So Wix storage didn't used to return promises. So let's see local. Yeah, so see something like this. See await local.set item. If I remember correctly, let's say in Velo, you wouldn't have async await here. You would have just local.set item, and that would work. But within the SDK, even the front-end modules need to work through async await, which is also something that I think is going to confuse a lot of people, especially people who are not developers or experienced developers. I know that that's the thing that I see most people getting confused with, how to handle promises, and the fact that the front-end code, which was, if somebody was using code, they were probably using the front-end modules, and the fact that you need async await there now just adds another layer of complication, which I think some people are going to find challenging. But it's good to know that that is a thing. And they also acknowledge performance, which is something that we speculated about in the video where I covered the announcement. So the SDK doesn't directly improve performance, and they're working on performance separately. So that's that's what's going on here in terms of SDK. And I don't know why the packages are just not installing. Let me see if I can install it from over here. Let's see, Wix packages. Let's look for members. Wix members. So here you could see like the version. And here you could like choose a version. So technically I can install like an older version if I thought that it had some kind of advantage for me. Maybe there's like some vulnerability they didn't patch that I could exploit in the previous package. But generally, you could just click install here, and that should install if it works. This usually does work. I don't want to like give a false impression that this doesn't work. Like every time I've tried it before, this worked. The install it now. I don't know why it's not working right now. So let me try and address some of the questions that we have here. So Carnell asked the first question. I'm going to address that, but afterwards, because I said that I would give priority to SDK related questions. So I'm going to first search for those, and then once we get through those, Carnell, you will be first. Shako said, "Hi, and thank you for everything you do. It means a lot for us who use Wix." Thank you. I have a question. Is it possible with the SDK to somehow translate Wix store data set collections? I mean, if you connect a repeater to Wix store's product dataset, it shows product, but on multilingual, it doesn't. I'm talking about Wix store collection dataset, which is created by Wix when you have Wix stores. Yeah, that I understand. Is it possible with SDK to somehow translate Wix store dataset collections? I mean, if you connect a repeater to Wix store product dataset, it shows products, but on multilingual it doesn't. So I want to ask a question back here before I dive into this. I mean, you mentioned with the SDK, so I'm trying to understand if this is something that you tried with Velo and you couldn't find a way, or you're just generally trying to ask if this is something that could be done with Wix code. But since this doesn't seem to be specifically about the SDK, I'm going to move on and come back. James, when you say it returns a promise, what does that mean exactly? Okay, great. So this is a question about the SDKs. As I said over here in the front end, these return a promise. So what does it mean? What are promises in general? So a promise is a case where you could think of it kind of as like a special function that handles a scenario where something is going to take time. So typical places where you would see a promise is, for example, if you're trying to fetch data from a CMS or a database or something. Or if you're interacting with like a third-party API with another server. So that's technically a place that you would see a promise. And the way that promises are handled, so there's generally two ways to handle promises. This package just does not want to install itself. Oh, there, it says it's installed over here. The linter's just not working. I don't know. But basically, when you're handling a function that has a wait in it, then your JavaScript understands that it needs to wait for the promise to be resolved, as we say, before it can move on to the next line. So let me build a function over here that has a promise built into it. So let's say async function, and let's call this promise example. And here, inside of this function, we have something that we need to wait for. So let's say const result equals to await fetch that data. Okay, this is like all pseudocode, but okay, so fetch that data is a function or it's either a function or a promise that is going to take time. Okay, because it needs to go to the server, it needs to get the data, it needs to come back. So if we were to run this function without the await, just like that, and you can ignore the kind of the red underline here, it's just because I haven't declared that function yet. But if I was to, let's say, console.log result here, then there's no guarantee that this result will be the value that's actually returned from this function. So instead, what we would get here is that this would just be like, I don't know, promise, something like that. Okay, so like there's no guarantee that that data has actually come back because this is something that takes time. And unless told otherwise, JavaScript just runs every line one after the other. So in order to make sure that we actually get this data back before we run the next lines of our code, then we would use here something called await. There's another way to deal with this, which is something called .then. But generally, and that's what the Wix documentation. Sorry, my microphone's like right in front of my keyboard, so I can barely see. But yeah, so then this is kind of the old way to do it. There are still some scenarios where you might want to use .then, but to keep things simple, generally it's recommended to use async await. And that way we can know for sure that this result is going to come back. So in the Wix world, places that you would typically see await are if you're using APIs like, the Wix data APIs, the Wix members APIs, anything that's interacting with the business solutions. So you would usually need await. Or if you are importing any kind of web methods from your backend, then that would also be a promise because that's an interaction with a server. So those are all scenarios where you'd need to use await, typically, also inside of the Velo APIs. The difference here is that inside of the SDK, even things that are only happening on the front end. So this, for example, is an API that's supposed to, store data in your local storage, also is technically using async await. So this is a scenario where you intuitively wouldn't necessarily think you need async await, and also inside of the Velo APIs, you wouldn't need async await. Let me just show you. Let me just make sure that I'm not making that up. I'm pretty sure I'm not. But here, yeah. So here you can see that there's no await keyword here, and only here inside of the SDK you do have await. So if we were to use it without await, then this would still work. So this local.setItem would still work, but the value that's returned from local.setItem you wouldn't be able to utilize in your code, and you also wouldn't be able, you wouldn't know for sure that this code ran before the next thing unless you used await. And yeah, I understand if it's hard to grasp, and also when you need to use await, when you don't need to use await. So I'm not sure 100% why this is the case in terms of the SDK. I wish I understood more about that. But if somebody wanted to technically figure it out, so I'll do a little bit of an aside here in terms of the SDK. So one of the interesting things about the SDK is that technically these are just regular NPM packages. So if I go here to, let's say I search NPM Wix members. So I can go here to the general, NPM directory and really just take a look at the code that's in the SDK itself. So that's something that we might have technically been able to do with Velo, but if I'm not mistaken, the code was it was rather hard to find exactly where the code is, and also they kind of minified the code into like something that was very hard to interpret as a human being. But this code is really quite exposed. So we can just really go here and, I mean, you still need to kind of understand what's going on, but you can see exactly the code that's working inside of the SDK. And if you wanted to like understand like how Wix works behind the scenes a little more, then you can go ahead and enjoy yourself reading all this code and really get a little more insights here. Yeah, index. See what else they have here. Yeah, they all kind of seem to be built in a similar way, but one of these is probably going to be kind of making the API calls. Yeah, somewhere in here there's going to be an API call to a server. I'm wondering exactly where that is. Maybe internal. Yeah, you have to kind of poke around here, but technically all of these SDKs are just wrappers. Oh, so here, yeah, the SDKs that are exposed to actual users actually invoke other SDKs. That's I saw in some of the other ones as well. So let's say here, members is actually using another package, which is at Wix Auto SDK members. So this is like not something that you would use as a user, but if you kind of really want to dig deep uh, and get under Wix's skin, then you would look for this, let's say. I was playing around with this before because it's interesting. Not that I would necessarily really understand because the code is, I didn't write the code. But here, yeah, eventually, if you dig down deep enough, you get stuff that are interesting. Yeah, you can take a peek around here. Oh, here. Oh, in source. Okay, source is where the interesting stuff happens. And then you can kind of just like, yeah, let's say here, HTTP. That's interesting, right? So here, so yeah, you can see here, these are like these are the actual APIs that the SDK calls. You can see here, and there are different scenarios. I'm guessing that these might have to do with whether you're using it inside of an app or headless or a Wix website or whatnot. But yeah, this is what Wix is trying to save you from by creating these SDKs. Yeah, so that's just one note about the SDKs. And let me head back to the questions because I got carried away. Okay, so 369IQ, who is a member, thank you very much, says, hello, Eitan, thank you for your videos. I have learned a lot from your Velo course in Udemy and here. Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Can you please explain how was your developer path with Wix? What programming languages did you have to learn? In what order? And how much time it took you to become very good? Yes, I can talk about that. Because I think we're done with the SDK questions. And as I said, we're going to give priority to member questions in the chat. So in terms of my path, so I actually started off on Wix building a website for a hobby project called Lang Groups. So this is the new version of the website on Studio. It was built in X. The original website was built in the classic editor, and I haven't really had a lot of time to spend on this project, so it's also kind of a little bit. And my team did some work on it, so don't try and don't use this as a tape measure to judge me at the moment. But basically, this is how I originally got into Wix and developing on Wix, just because I had a bunch of things that I wanted to customize on the website, and I needed to kind of poke around and learn in order to do that. So that's first how I got into it. Later on, I decided I was working in digital marketing, and I decided that I wanted to transition to development, web development. So I took a few courses on Udemy, generally about web development. So, all the basic HTML and JavaScript and CSS and stuff like that. And I could not find a job in tech. So, so I had started freelancing on Upwork, and found some gigs related to Wix, and then started really kind of like specializing in Wix, and the rest is history. So that is that's that. That was the developer path. What programming languages did you have to learn? So have to learn, I would say JavaScript. What do I recommend learning to be like a kind of full-fledged developer? That would be HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But it's really not only about programming languages, it's also just about how to think about certain problems, and different concepts, like understanding what backend, front end, server, what HTTP is, how to build a database, things like that. So it's really a combination of general terminology and specific programming languages, and how much time it took you to become very good. So it depends what you consider very good. Um, I can say that I've been doing this for, I want to say 3-ish years, um, which I sometimes feel is like embarrassingly short. But I think measuring in years is always a little deceiving, because it's really about how much time you spend in those few years. I mean, you could say that you've been doing something for 10 years, and you can be doing it like, for an hour a week, or you could be doing something for a year and you can be doing it, every day for 8 hours a day. So it's a little deceptive. Um, but I think it's definitely feasible. Um, I think that, if you're dedicated, within a year, you can get to a position where you can. I mean, I don't know what your goals are as a developer, but you can start to do work for other people. Um, Maybe not the most, the highest paying gigs or whatnot, but I think you could be of value to other people after a year of dedicated learning and practical implementation. That's kind of my gut feeling. Yeah, I hope that answered the question of 39IQ. And now I'm going to start going through the just the general chat, so things that are not necessarily related to the JavaScript SDK. If you still have any questions about the JavaScript SDK or anything with regard to Wix, you can feel free to chat. And hi to Skettrap, Skettrap, who just joined the chat. Okay, so if you're still online, Carnell, I'm finally going to be addressing your question. On Wix Studio, can you show how to set up a header that overlaps the first section, but then scrolls with the website with a color background? Ooh. Okay. Show a header that overlaps with the first section. So to overlap with the first section, I think you'd need to set it to, I want to say it would need to be sticky. Yeah, I've kind of like been ignoring design recently. But let's see if I can figure it out. So here you have a setting color while scrolling. So that could be interesting. So let's try and change this to, let's say, blue in color while scrolling. That's right over here after I select the header. So if I go ahead and publish that, let's see what that looks like. now in live. Published with errors. And yeah, so now it's white. And then when I start scrolling, oh, there's nothing to scroll on this page. 1 second. I need to make this section a lot bigger. Let's see here. So let's make this height, let's say 1,500. And publish that. And let's just take a look at this again. Now let's try scrolling, and there we go. So we got some color there. Okay, so that's the second part of your requirements. But we don't want it to scroll like that. We want it to kind of scroll with the rest of the website. So that would probably be here inside of these scrolling properties. So I'm guessing we want freeze and overlap. It would overlap the next section. So we'll go ahead and publish that. And let me go ahead and start scrolling. Yeah. I think that was what you wanted. Let me just read the requirements again. Can you show how to set up a header that overlaps with the first section, but then scrolls with the website with a color background? Let me know. Let me know. That's what, if you were my client, this is what I would have done based on what you requested, and then hopefully gotten your feedback, and you can tell me if that's what you wanted. Okay. So I'm going to continue with the questions. Technically, next would be Chaco, but I see that we have a few more people that have joined into the chat here. So 369IQ. Thanks, man. I think you're the best developer in Wix. I have tried a lot in the marketplace. Thank you very much. I'm flattered. I mean, I know people that I look up to and I learn a lot from in terms of development on Wix, people that have been around a lot before me. So I'm flattered, but I'm not so sure that's true. And when you say you tried a lot in the marketplace, do you mean that you've tried a lot of developers, or that you tried to get hired in the marketplace? And Carnell's here. Sorry for the design question. No, it's fine. I'm happy to be challenged. I mean, usually my approach to design is just like, look, look and try and see. I mean, this totally was not something that I knew by heart. It was just because I feel like they're always introducing new features in the terms of the design. So something that wasn't possible yesterday is possible tomorrow, and you just kind of like on a per thing basis, you got to check. I think like the expertise kind of comes in terms of like knowing where to look for things versus like knowing how to do things. That's what I tell myself to sleep at night. And I see Beauty by Julia has joined as well. Hey, is there an API for Wix online programs, or is it possible to customize modules visually in a different way than in the widgets? Unfortunately, I don't think that there is an API for online programs. Let me double check. As far as I recently, let's see, Wix. LMNOP. Don't see here. Let me check the SDK. Probably backend modules. No, I don't. It like notoriously does not have any kind of API. Let me try the assistant. Let's see. Is there an API for online programs? I just want to treat it like an advanced search. That's what I use these assistants for. No. So it's just hallucinating here because none of those are the online program. So unfortunately, I think that the answer is no. Yeah, I mean, like we've helped a few people that a few clients that wanted like custom course experiences, and we really needed to build it from the ground up. Yeah, like a client that wanted to embed an iframe with like dynamic code based on what module you're in or what lesson you're in and stuff like that. Like it's not really possible with the online programs. And yeah, so I think you're going to need to go ground up, different way, customize the modules visually in a different way than in the widgets. You're really kind of you're you're kind of locked into what you got there out of the box in terms of the online programs. So either you'll want to build custom, or you might want to look into other third party like course building websites and stuff like that. And possibly that might have an API that you can integrate with Wix, or you could just embed or just completely migrate. But yeah, yeah, sorry. No is the hardest thing to say sometimes, but this one is a no in terms of Wix customization. If anybody knows otherwise, please help us out in the chat. But I don't think that that it exists. Alvin, don't sell yourself short. You are most def my go-to Wix guy. Lol. Really appreciate all of your content. It helped me out immensely. I'm very happy to hear. And Alvin also has a question. Have you personally submitted any feature requests to Wix? If so, curious as to what features you requested. So I will get back to Alvin. I owe somebody, I owe Shako some answers here because I had skipped over for the SDK questions and then the member questions. So I'll be coming back to that, Alvin, in a moment. But let me see here. So Shako asked earlier if it's possible with the SDK to somehow translate Wix store dataset collections. I mean, if you connect a repeater to Wix store products dataset, it shows products, but on multilingual, it don't. Okay, Wix store dataset collections. That's a good question. I'm not sure. Let me see. Let me try and install multilingual here. Well, I'll have to install Wix stores. And I'll install multilingual as well. In the meantime, as we're doing this, I will address I'll address Alvin's question. So if I personally submitted any feature requests to Wix, if so, curious as to what feature you requested. I have that's a good question. I give Wix feedback all the time on different things. I'm trying to think. I feel like a lot of the things that I give feedback on are things that they might have had in the pipeline anyways, and the feedback more possibly directed them to focus on it than actually being like a completely new feature that that they wanted. One thing I mean, this is just like recency bias, but one thing that I recently asked for is, I mean, this is kind of like more of a partner feature, but I wanted the option of like a reverse invite. So instead of, let's say somebody wants to invite me to be a collaborator on their site. So instead of them having to go into their dashboard and then send me an invite to my email address, I instead could send them a link that when they click it, all they'll have to do is like select a site, let's say from a list, and then it will invite me to that site as a collaborator. Just to really, because I find that a lot of people have trouble finding the collaboration, how to add collaborators on their site. And I think that might streamline a little bit in scenarios where you need to be added as a collaborator. But that's just, yeah, I mean, it's not even so, like, it's more of like a meta feature. But Wix had some trouble understanding, like, why, like, yeah. Anyway, we're still discussing it. And other things that I've requested, I remember a while back requesting something like the ability to host files in the back end. So basically, let me explain the pain. Let me try and explain the pain point. So you can add files here, like in public or in backend. Maybe it would be possible in public. Like basically, I want to add a file and be able to point to that file from a URL. Okay, so like if you were building a project from scratch, then you would have the option to like put files inside of your directory and just have them served from from your server as just like files. And it's something that's needed for certain integrations and certain third-party packages and stuff like that. It's a pretty edge case scenario, and I don't even recall the original thing that I was trying to do that prompted me to request that, but that's another example of something that I wanted to do. Like basically, like you don't have like accessible storage or like a lot of control over your server side and your public code file structure. That's like if I wanted to sum it up. Um yeah, I'm sure I've asked for other things. I mean, I think I try to jot down ideas that I have and mention them to Wix at different intervals. But those are just some things that come to mind. So I do to yeah, TLDR. I do sometimes request things from Wix and give them suggestions, but not through like any kind of like standard channel, just kind of like through email and chit chat. Yeah, so that's that. And sorry, Shako, I kind of got distracted. I see you sent another message. If you have two languages, it will always show first default language. I tried with Velo and I could not find any solution. Okay, let's try and take a look. So I added that. Let me add in multilingual as well. I know that I saw some other people commented on the YouTube videos about some other frustrations with regard to multilingual collections. Like you can only query, like if you can't, maybe you can't update a translated collection from a form or something like that. Um, like using input and stuff like that. Okay, so let me see here. Let's see, CMS. If this is not the way that you did it, then let me know. Okay, so it seems like multilingual. Let me see here. Advanced settings. Let me see here. Wix app collections. I do want to see that. Okay, Wix app collections, stores. So collections. Sorry, I really have not used this multilingual thing very much. Let me see here. Mm, is this Shako? Is this what you were trying? Is this what you were doing? Were you trying to translate it through here? Is this the? 'Cause it doesn't seem that you can even. Oh, sorry. This is just the website. This is just the regular collections. Multilingual. Maybe I have to go through this first. Set main language. Flag. Go for it. Okay. Let's add a new language. Let's do Spanish, let's say. Flag. No, do Mexico. Not playing favorites here, but I've been to Mexico twice and Spain only once, so it's only fair. Let's see. Manual translation, add language. Whoops. No, keep it hidden for now, let's say. Let's see. Spanish. Okay, here, edit translations. CMS. Add collections to translate. No. Oh, here, stores. Categories. Okay. I'm going to do auto translate. Todos los productos. And whatever this is. Okay. There we go. Won't show up when you're using repeater connected to stores products data set. Okay. I'm thinking maybe I want to add. Let me add in. Maybe I'll add in like 2 more categories. This is great. I appreciate the question because this is a great refresher on, not really refresher, but a learning experience in multilingual for me. I think I did actually make a tutorial about it a while back, but since then I have not touched it. If it definitely, it used to be a big pain point. Like I played with it a while back in that original project that I mentioned, and I just remember it being a huge pain in the neck. Um, I mean, it's a tough. Multilingual is a tough concept to deal with. I'll give Wix that. It's not an easy, not an easy cookie to crack. Let me add here. Let me add some more categories. So let's say like, I don't know, shirts. I'll add in a few of these, and let's say pants. I know that those aren't pants. Okay. Awesome. And now let's see if I have these here in my categories. Maybe I have to refresh this. Let me try again. I can go through here probably. Okay. Where were you? Website content, multilingual, edit translations, stores, categories. And let's add this in and this in. Pantalones and camisetas, right? Camisas. Sorry. Camisas. I was close. Um, Thanks, Reed, by the way, for pointing to 4 collections, for pointing to, I think, to where we are now. Um, translate products in the Translate Manager, but this translation won't show up when you're using repeater connected. Oh, so you don't mean the categories, you mean the products. So let me save this for a second. And let's go to products. Is there a way to like translate all? Let's see, generate translations. No. Okay, I'll just auto translate a few of these. They're all called I'm a product, so it's pretty much the same translation. Product cards. Um, tell me if I'm not doing the right thing here, but this is what I understand, that this is what you wanted to translate. And then, okay, so we have, and then you have a repeater. Let's go to the home page. So you have a repeater. Let's see here, list. Just do a repeater. And this repeater is connected to products. Let's put in like some text here. Okay, it's going to be like a little ugly, but we'll try and make do. Awesome. So we have the repeater, and we're going to connect this to a data set that's connected to our products. And the text, let's say, will connect to product name. And then theoretically, what we're hoping is that on the English version, this will show the English name, and then on the Spanish version, it will show the Spanish name, I would think. So let's go ahead and publish this. And let's see. Okay, so this is the English site. Why don't I see my, why don't I see this? Oh, shoot. I think I need I think I said, when I was setting it up, I don't think I activated the languages. How do I activate it now? Let's see. Hidden. No, I want to change it. Visible. There we go. Okay, let's try this again. Do I have to publish my site again, or will it work? Let's see. Visible. I'll just publish again. There we go. Okay, so let's see. Spanish. Seems to be working to me. Shaco. Let me know if I missed something here, but I mean, not all of them are Spanish because I only translated 3, but these 3 are showing the Spanish version. And if I switch back here to English, then it shows the English version. So let me know if I missed something in the setup, but it seems to be working as I would expect it to work. Yeah, awesome. Okay, so I'm going to go to Annibal's question. Hi, Ethan. I hope you can advise me on how to implement this feature. Show average ratings from Wix comments. It's detailed on your forum post. No worries, Chaco. It's fine. Yeah, I don't know what you were doing differently, but you can always go back and watch this video afterwards and just follow step by step what I did, and then hopefully it'll work. Okay, so Annabelle's question is how to show the average rating from Wix comments. Sure, let's take a look at the APIs. So let's take a look here at Wix comments. Okay, let's just take a look at what we have here. So average rating from Wix comments. So you'd probably want to do a query and get all the comments. And then once you get all the comments back, app ID to query comments for. Oh, so you need to find this app ID. So if you're just using the plain Wix comments app, then you'd use this ID right over here. And then you'd query all the comments. And what does it return here? Oh, comment query results. So you'll get here the items. And the items will have the rating. And then you just calculate an average. There might also be a way to do it using aggregate. So if you do, no, I don't see aggregate here. Yeah, in regular Wix data, I think you could do like aggregate, which would do like a calculation automatically. But here, what you'll have to do is you'll just have to get all the items and then run the calculation. Following some professional coders who looked at got stuck. My last comment shows the coder's code. Let me go to the Wix. So for those of you not familiar with the forum, it is a place for you to ask questions that might not be suitable for a comment on a video, or you just want to provide more detail and whatnot. I see there are a bunch that I need to still answer. I usually answer them on Fridays. Okay, so let's see. This is about comments. I think this is the one you're talking about, Annabelles. Oh no, this is connect to the rating display. Comments. Found it. Display. Oh, it's from 2 days ago. Okay, that's why I didn't answer yet. Display average ratings from Wix comments. I'm using Wix comments as a workaround to Wix reviews. Okay. Below is the Wix comments widget. Excellent. What I've tried. Additional info. So my last comment shows that coder's code. I don't see any comments. It could be I didn't approve them yet if they were made recently. Is this animals? Is this the code that you're talking about? Okay, import comments from Wix Comments v2. Thread ID equals let comment data await comments dot list comments. Comments dot comments. Okay. Total rating / rating count. I mean, this looks good. I don't know what, it's not so clear to me what didn't work here. I don't see an API that's called list comments though. That's what's kind of missing for me here. Yeah. This one uses query comments. Let me see here. Query comments. That's what I think should work. Okay, since we have no other questions, I will try and do this. So, and that will probably be the last thing that we do. So if you have more questions, then you can ask them really quickly and maybe I'll have time to address them. But otherwise, we're going to do this, and this will probably be the last activity for today. So let's go ahead and add a section in here. And let's add in the Wix Comments app. No, not that. We want the Wix Comments one. Wix Comments. Add to site. Awesome. So we got Wix Comments installed. And this widget seems to be just egregiously large. Okay, awesome. So let's put that over here. And I'm going to add in a text element for the average rating. So this is going to be the average rating. So average rating. And let's get rid of all the other code that we have here. And awesome. So what we're going to do, query comments. I wonder if this could be in the front end. Okay. Let's see. Query comments dot find. It's interesting that they don't. Okay, I'm going to copy this. And let's put this over here. Whoops. Put this over here. And put this function over here. Comments.query comments. And we're going to need the app ID. here they're missing the await. And I'm going to, yeah, that's missing here probably. And app ID. So that's over here. Sorry, it's getting a little late here. I won't lie. This is the app ID. So we'll say const comments app ID equals to this. And here we'll pass in the comments app ID. Awesome. And then we'll say here const item. So here we'll probably want to use reduce. Const average rating equals to items dot reduce AB. And we're going to say that it should be A plus B dot rating. Comment and number. Why would A be a comment? 1 second. 1 moment. Items show child properties. Why would A be a comment in reduce? A should be the... No, I don't think that's right. And here we're going to have 0. Oh, there, that worked itself out. And this will be, sorry, this will be total ratings. And then we'll say that const average ratings will be equal to total ratings divided by, let's say, items.length. And we'll assign that to our average rating dot text equals to, I have to find some kind of solution for this mic because I just cannot type and use it at the same time. Dot text equals to, let's use a template literal. So we'll say average rating. And here we'll have the average rating. And let's just run here, await. We'll just run it like this, query comments, just like that. Bad naming for the function, but whatever. Awesome. Here, let's change this, average rating. Publish. And let's see what happens here. Should probably have added some console logs, I'm thinking. Yeah. First have to enable ratings. Okay, that's a good comment. Let's see. Manage settings. Settings. Ratings. Okay. Awesome. Enabled ratings. That's good. And let me stack these just so that we don't have an issue here. Can I stack it? Yeah. Wix team members said that the API is for the back end. It may be for the back end. I'm going to try it here on the front end. If it doesn't work, then I'm going to move it to the back end. Console.log. Let me add a log here. Items. Okay, let me publish this. And let's load this page again. Okay, so nothing happened, which is fine because we don't have any ratings yet, so that's expected. But let me just see here in terms of permissions denied, forbidden. Yeah, okay, let's move it to the back end. I was trying to be lazy, but that didn't work. So let me go and add in here a new web module called comments. And having this in the back end is probably going to it'll allow us to do better testing. So let's look at the bright side. And I'm going to just grab all this stuff and basically move it to the back end. And grab this. And this won't work in the back end, so let's put this over here. And then here we'll just return query comments. And here we'll return average ratings. And here we don't need any parameters. And here we can call this, let's say, get average rating. And let's try running this quickly. Okay, so we need to elevate. Another difference between Velo APIs and the SDK, by the way, is that there's no such thing as suppress auth in the SDK, so you always have to elevate. That's another thing. But you should be familiar with elevate anyways, because there are some things like this with inside of Velo need to be elevated. So let's go over here and we'll say const elevated query comments equals to elevate this. And then here we can say elevated query comments like that. Oh, where does the dot find go? Interesting. Okay, let's see if this works. Returned with null items. Okay, so this worked, but we don't have any comments yet. So let's go ahead and add in a few comments. Should I publish this quickly? I know we haven't really done the front end yet, but let's just get this working on the back end. And let me refresh this. And okay, so let's add in test. I am a human. Awesome. So we got, let's say, test 2. Huh? Changed my rating? Okay, there's a bug. There's definitely a bug here in the, I don't know why it keeps on changing. That is so weird. Did you guys see that? Oh no, my thing is sliding here. Okay. Let me see. Oh no, my whole green screen is going. Okay, much better. Yeah, that is like some odd bug here. Here, I'll send this I'll send this site in the chat and you can all leave You can all leave comments. You can all leave comments there. So let me go now and run this backend function. And here, so you can see now that this was returned with 5. And here we have all the ratings. And now the last piece of the puzzle would just be here to import this this function, get average rating from backend / comments .web. And then let's make this async. And we can say here const average rating equals to await get average rating, and just put it in there like that. And publish. And refresh here. There we go. And the average rating is 5 because of Wix, because there's a glitch. Yeah, if you want to all participate, and it's weird. Also, it says there's only 1 rating when there's 3 ratings here. Something weird's going on. But if you guys all want to hop on the site and kind of add your own comments with ratings, maybe that will help. I don't know. Maybe like if I did an incognito tab, that might also help. Oh yay, somebody's adding. Let's see. I'll try and refresh here and see if we start to see other people's ratings coming in. There we go. So see, now it's 4.5. With 553. Does that make sense? Somebody who's good with math. It's weird. It still shows only 1. It says 1 rating here. I don't know. But I think this is working. So yeah, I'm not sure where exactly. I mean, I understand that you're not a coder. I'm not sure where the other guy got stuck, but or gal or person. But this seems to be working. I will leave 3 more seconds if there's any if there are any follow-up questions going on here. But I think that we are very close to a wrap up. So I'm going to thank you all for joining and indulging me as I rant about the SDK and whatnot. I hope you enjoyed this this live stream. It's always nice for me to connect with all of you. For those of you who missed in the beginning, I talked a little bit about the new YouTube Community Center, which will hopefully make the whole experience of being a viewer of the Wix Wiz on YouTube a little more interactive. So basically, your comments are now featured on the Wix Wiz website, interpreted by AI, and kind of segmented by topics, and it just creates like a much better way to interact with the viewership community as a whole. So please check that out if you didn't see it. Annables, you'd like to thank me in some way. How can I? I mean, I'm not going to just, find 5 friends to join to subscribe to the Wix Wiz YouTube channel, and we'll call it even though I'm really just happy to help. That's what this live stream is for. But yeah, so I think we're going to wrap up here for today. And thank you all for joining. It's 11:40 p.m., so I think it's time for me to go to bed. especially because I have 2 consultations tomorrow morning, which I'm looking forward to. And I'll see you all next time.